And now it's time for the Cruise In with the Old Mustang Man, brought to you by All-Star Plumbers, locally owned, and give them a call. They are good at what they do. My buddy Eddie Pruitt Ford, Hartselle. If you're going to get a Ford anywhere in this part of the country, Eddie's the best. And Brad Stovall talked to Brad yesterday. Auto, Body, and Glass. We'll be talking about his big show coming up in Ardmore here before long, too. And by Jimmy Smith GMC, right down the road. Go by and see Austin, Jerry, and all the bunch down there. Now, here he is, the one and only Mustang Man.
Live and in person this morning, Jamie. Man, that sun is bright, but not as bright as this car here. Jason, you have brought a beautiful car that has a very special connection. So, first of all, tell us what the car is, and just thanks for bringing it up.
Well, thanks, Joseph. This is a 1963 and a half Ford Falcon Sprint. It's a half model year only car. They kind of designed these cars to lead into the Mustang. This car was my father's. He got it back in the 80s. He had one in college, and he just absolutely loved these cars. So when he started building this one, he was working at the shipyard as an engineer down in Charleston, South Carolina, and shortly after that, I had started driving. I got a little Chevy, too, and we used to go down to the 8th Mile drag strip, and I actually used to race against this car as a teenager and lost most of the time. I raced a Nova. My father raced a Falcon that beat me a lot.
So he used to beat you in this car, so he drag raced. So much for really that's the way it should be. Instead of teaching our kids to drive safe and be easy and tender with them, we need to get them on the racetrack and show them how to really handle a car. And I don't mean that in a joking way.
Right.
That can show you what you need to do with all that power you got.
Exactly. I think that's a good point. Kids need to know that there is a place where you can go use that power and have fun, and that's out on the racetrack and not on the road. And I've tried to raise my kids that way. As a matter of fact, my son drives this car as much or more than I do. He knows that one day it'll be in his garage. It's never going anywhere.
Well, what a neat connection, like you say, to know that, you've had this car in the family since, the early 80s?
Yes, sir. It's been since the early 80s. The original engine that comes in these cars is exactly like the first Mustangs. It's a 260 V8, which was the predecessor to that 289 and the 302. This car actually has a 302 in it that's got a little bit more power. That 260 was a powerhouse at about 187 horsepower back in the day, and the 302 that I'm running in it is closer to 350 horsepower.
There you go. So that's a little bit of a sleeper. You come pulling up. I mean, they see the V8 badge, and they're thinking, well, this guy's probably not got much, but you got little horses under the hood for them.
Absolutely, and these cars are amazingly light. They look like a big car by today's standards, but in actuality, they weigh about what a Mazda Miata does.
Wow, I did not know that. I knew that it is a small car compared to, you look at the early 60s on into the mid 60s, the cars were huge. We call them boats, land barges, right. But this car does have that small footprint, really, hence the name Sprint. It's a very sporty little car.
Yes, came with a 4-speed and a Positrack rear end and a V8, so it was really made to be the sports car for Ford prior to the Falcon, or excuse me, prior to the Mustang.
That's right, that's right. Jamie, you knew I had to get the Mustang talk in there, but, and I knew that when I was talking to Jason about bringing this up. If you remember, Jason is the one who has the little Carmen Ghia. You got a surfboard on top of it, right?
Surfboard and an old Pepsi cooler.
There you go, and you got your Coke cooler in this one. Yep. So, well, that is a beautiful car. I'm so glad that you brought it up, and you kept it kind of, in original condition. That's the thing. It's just classic, the classic lines, classic American muscle. It's just a beautiful car.
Yeah, and because it belonged to my father, I wanted to keep it more of a survivor car, not necessarily a show car. So it does have scratches. It does get driven. It needs some things here and there, and it's actually a little dirty right now. I'm kind of embarrassed.
Well, hey, don't worry about that. It means you drive it. The old saying of horsepower is nothing if it's in the garage. But speaking of that, you get this car out to a lot of the shows and the cruise-ins locally.
Absolutely. Me and my son and my wife, we all try to take the cars out and support local events. I really like the little cruise-ins more than the shows. It's fun to just get out there and hang out with other enthusiasts and get a chance to socialize.
Every time I'm looking through the photos from some of the cruise-ins and car shows, I see photos of your car there. Eugene, I think, the picture that I was showing earlier, grabbed that one over at the Bojangles show at Highway 72 and Jeff Road there.
That's correct. And I believe he's got another cruise in coming up on, what, the 15th of this month.
I think so. So, all right, well, let's, speaking of, Jason, thank you so much for bringing that out, and it's good to see you again.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And speaking of car shows and cruise ins, I think Brad has got the one and only show that I've listed. Now, I do have another one to tell you about. Saturday the 16th from 7:30 to 11. This is a great opportunity to get out early on a Saturday morning before the heat really sets in. It's a Cars and Coffee. It's an event. If you're not familiar with that, that's just where you just take your car, shine it up, cruise it in, park it for a couple hours, eat some breakfast. They usually have some stuff they serve, but that's over on 100, I don't know how to say that drive there, but I've listed it for you. It's over in Madison. I think it's right off of Hughes, excuse me, not Hughes. It's off of Wall Triana over in Madison, kind of behind that Sonic there, across from the Redstone Federal Credit Union, so you can't miss that one. And then the only other show that I knew about was one over in Lacey Springs. Jason and I were talking about it. I don't know the details on that one. I didn't have it listed, sorry. But thanks again to Jason for bringing this beautiful Falcon out. Working on a car for next week that if I can get it, let me just give you a hint, Cobra. It's Cobra. That's the hint for next week. So I'm working on it. I'm hoping I'm going to get it. It's pretty bad. It's a bad little muscle ride. So anyway, tune in next week here on ZTV, and you don't want to miss what we've got.